Danganronpa.
Nope. Oh, it's that time, huh? Alright, Eduardo, breathe. Breathe deeply. Danganronpa, more specifically Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. By far my most successful series on the channel, and one of the most gut-punching franchises I've ever touched to this day. And here I was thinking that the ending to Golden Sun: The Lost Age would be hard to overcome in terms of emotions. Emotional my ass. The tale of a large number of high school students, an entire class, forced to kill each other to escape from the hell they didn't create. And I'm ranking the characters? What kind of monster am I? Soulless bastard here dishing out pain to already troubled characters should go to hell. Well, yes and no. You see, after the traumatic experience of the normal game, I was greeted to a little extra called School Mode. I haven't seen everything it has to offer yet, but I have gathered enough to be able to rank my 10 favorite characters from the first game of the series. Let's just say that while some of the choices were fairly obvious, there was a point where I actually had to dedicate shower time to think about. Yeah, it was that difficult to decide. There's no character in this game that I fully dislike. Nothing like, oh, this character shouldn't exist because blah 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 dead. Nope. For me, every character added its own element to the game, turning it into quite a unique experience for the player to feel. That being said, there are some low points. Anyone who's played this and other Danganronpa titles will know that there are far more than 10 characters in the first installment. That means, let's just say a lot of characters will bite the bullet on this one. Dangan is not going to be enough this time. We'll need a lot of them. Yes, Dangan means what? Rules are simple. I like character, I place character. Nothing too fancy this time around. I'll be your guide throughout Hope's Peak Academy's corridors of guaranteed despair. Of course, if you haven't played this game already, or know nothing of Danganronpa, I suggest playing first, as this game is brilliantly designed to be an emotional bomb when played blind. For those of you who know how this unfolds, thank you for staying with me. Let's give it everything we've got. Here's where the problems start. The low tiers of this list were food for my stupid brain for days. Let's just say I damn near had an aneurysm because from number 5 onwards, it became incredibly difficult to pin down who I would want there. But, after what I thought was forever, I may have just found the answer I was looking for. So, without further ado, let's start with...
Hell yeah!
You know, I think something needs to be said about the supposed meanies, big air quotes. Bad attitude? Check. Violent behavior? Check. Heart of gold? Check. Wait, what? Heartbreaking killing? Check. Excuse me? Traumatic past? Okay, let's just stop here. I don't want to have to cry already. It's only number 10, damn it. Mondo is an interesting character that only barely makes it here because of Chapter 2. But don't think he's a bad character. As I said, I don't dislike anybody. While that holds true, there is a certain line that once crossed makes me go, I don't dislike them, but I don't care for them either. Mondo is in what I like to call the Schrödinger zone. 90% indifference, 10% tears, 100% number 10 material. Why do I say that? Well, strap yourselves in. At the beginning of the game, it's Mondo that causes Monokuma to self-destruct, revealing that the black and white despair-inducing bear is not above killing the students himself. It was a great moment simply because it showed that Mondo wasn't above feeling fear. Once Kyoko told him to let go of Monokuma, he did it. He feared for his life. It was merely a prelude to what would come on later on. As the game progresses and makes its way to Chapter 2, Mondo starts becoming slightly more likable. Mannerisms stay the same, but relationships built are another matter entirely. Bonus points were attributed once Taka became the bestest of buddies with the biker. Their friendship was believable and completely came out of left field, unexpected to the fucking core. Then, in comes the murder in which Chihiro Fujisaki was the victim. Once the player reaches the climax of that class trial, you eventually figure out that it was indeed Mondo the one who took away the poor lass's the poor lad's life. Remember the motive of Chapter 2? The darkest secrets of each character were going to get revealed, right? Mondo couldn't cope with that. Taking it on was bad enough as it was, but when Chihiro demonstrated a willpower strong enough to overcome his own fears, it broke the biker gangster's soul into tiny pieces. The player is finally given a reason as to why it happened. Shame. Mondo was ashamed of himself, even if only subconsciously. Ashamed of the actions that led to the worst night of his life. The night his brother Daya met his untimely end. Due to Mondo's selfishness. Ultimately, that event left a scar in Mondo that tormented him until the moment of his execution. He couldn't understand. How could Chihiro be stronger than him? Strong enough to fight back against his biggest fear? It's this moment in the story that grants him the last possible position in this list. I'm pretty sure most of you who have played DR1 displayed emotion upon the end of Chapter 2. And it just wouldn't have been possible without Mondo. He's not a bad guy. Just a victim of stupid decisions and an unrelenting past that haunted him. Well done. Just brilliant. Attention! This is a trigger warning. This entry might trigger some viewers, so if you're sensitive to these matters, you might as well skip too. Oh, who am I kidding? Triggering will always happen in a list like this, so bring her out, boys. Well, here we go. There's a special place reserved in Purgatory, Limbo, or however you fancy people like to call it, for people who consider the victim of Chapter 1 one of the best characters this game has to offer. Too bad for you, for I've got a reservation in there since I was born. So I don't think I need to be coy about my affection toward a character that many consider to be, well, a snake. Sayaka's stay in the main game was short. Too short. Introduced as the first character Makoto can even talk to without feeling like the wimpiest bitch to ever bitch, she's sweet, charming, but above all else, down to earth. Despite being the most idolized pop sensation in the country, Sayaka kept her personality unchanged for the majority of her life. That in itself is amazing. She actually started by being my favorite character in the game. And I'll bet my 2.5 remaining brain cells that you people know exactly why she lowered so much from the pole position. First off, Sayaka and Makoto were the only ones with a shared past, since they came from the same middle school. Somehow, she remembers him. Convenience at its finest. Then, through a mixture of being the cutest early game character and master usage of her smile, she manages to gain the trust of not only Makoto, but of the player too. It's weird, but I feel like Sayaka was made and designed to be likable. I like to think of her as the teacher of the Danganronpa series, an awesome character to introduce the player to his new reality. Why is that, you may ask? As I said before, there's a reason that probably everyone knows about as to why she's only number 9, as opposed to the previously mentioned top of the table. Sayaka, as a character, is the sole driving force of the first chapter in the series. Her presence in the early moments of the game is so powerful that she's the first one to die. Not only that, she's the first one to attempt murder. By abusing Makoto's trust, she devises a plan to kill Leon Kuwata, who's not on this list by the way, and almost succeeds. Guess on who the blame would be pinned? That's right, Makoto. Sayaka's the one who teaches the player the most valuable lesson in Danganronpa. Trust no one. Not even who you like most. Because if you do, you might just get backstabbed. I feel like without the ultimate pop sensation's little attempt at treachery, the game would have taken a very different turn. I also feel confident in saying that it is no stretch to assume that 90% of the people who played Danganronpa 1 started to taking a lot of precautions around fellow classmates in game after Chapter 1. Ultimately, Sayaka built the foundations of Danganronpa. That feeling of distrust is certainly what you'll be feeling most of the game, excluding those gut-punching moments where your room will be pure tear water. And you know what? She's cute, damn it. I don't care what anyone says. She earned this spot on the top. Number 8 is unpredictable. Fitting enough for the choice since the thing this crazy girl loves is the only thing as unpredictable as her. Hold on to your sanity, folks. Otherwise, you just might fall victim to the ultimate despair.
Let's give it everything we've got. It's punishment time!
My. Fallen to despair, have we now? No kidding. The endeavor that was made by Kazutaka Kodaka, lead writer of Danganronpa, to make a character whose existence is despair itself is, well, scary, but absolutely incredible and brilliant. In the villains department, Junko Enoshima is what I would refer to as extremely overqualified for the job. Let's just say, whatever it is you think is going to work against her, won't. She's always 1,000 steps ahead of, well, pretty much everybody. And don't get me started with Danganronpa 3, alright? I'm talking purely about Trigger Happy Havoc. Spending most of the game under the guise of Monokuma, headmaster of Hope's Peak Academy, was actually a genius move, especially considering that the player always thought they met Junko at the beginning of the game. Not enough for you?
I'm not done yet!
How about Junko as a character? After all, we're counting characters here, not alter egos. So might as well talk about the short time Junko truly was in the spotlight. When we're talking of the mastermind of a killing game that involves an entire high school building and 16 students, you'd expect some crazy shenanigans out of them. For the most part, that is correct. Her introduction is honestly one of the moments that most left me saying what the fuck in a video game. It's not easy for me to be speechless about anything, but this was on a completely different level. When I said number 8 was unpredictable, I absolutely meant it. Junko switches up her personality like I switch tissues on an allergy day. It's absolutely insane. One minute she's British royalty, the other she's depressed, and then all of a sudden she gets, get this, a Monokuma paper cutout over her face and starts making his voice. How crazy are you, Junko? Her trial is also, in my most humble of opinions, the best in the game. Chapter 6's whole idea of solving every last mystery left to solve while she keeps a firm grasp on the situation until very near the end is honestly spectacular and, above all else, incredibly well executed. Throughout that same trial, Junko manages to completely capture my attention every single time she's on screen. Charismatic to an almost sickening degree, she has everybody wrapped around her little finger. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only reason she lost to everyone else is because of one little factor she didn't saw coming. Makoto. The presence of the ultimate hope in that trial was something that was truly beyond her control. For Junko, Makoto was nothing more than the ultimate lucky student. Learning of his real ultimate talent made her lose some composure, and it was all downhill from there for the remaining Despair sister. After being sentenced to execution, I think most of us were relieved to see such a heartless monster go. That's when she pulls off the most abnormal confession in the game. She's just bored of life. The despair originated from failing her plan at the last hurl made her so excited that she went through with her promise to execute herself on the spot, leading way to the ultimate punishment. Bravo, Junko. You've shown me, and a lot of other people, just how far you were willing to go to make your ideals prevail. We need more villains like you. So, I've got a confession to make. As I'm writing this, I've already finished watching Danganronpa 3's Despair arc. And let's just say I'm mentally scarred for fucking life. That being said, I'll do my best to be as impartial making this and any other Danganronpa related lists. I promise though, it's not gonna be easy. It's a good thing then that the next character makes me feel a lot better every time I talk to her.
Huh.
You must indeed be crazy to not find the most badass to ever badass muscle-filled character ever slightly sympathetic, at least. A person so likable in the form of a giant scary fighter is not exactly an everyday occurrence. Welcome aboard Hopespeak Academy of Bullshit, where everyday is not an everyday occurrence. Where can I even start when talking about her? Oh, that in itself, I suppose. Yeah, Sakura's a girl. Big deal, right? You could tell from the name, right? What? You couldn't? Well, I'll be damned. Being the ultimate martial artist doesn't sound fitting for a girl, right? Well, that's precisely one of the reasons why she's doing it. Sakura comes from a family of powerful martial artists. Being the last in line to inherit her family's massive dojo, she's determined to become the strongest human on the planet. Thing is, she's not blinded by that goal. In fact, I'm pretty sure that being the strongest goes both ways in her case, those being obviously physical and emotional strengths. I can confidently say that I was never, not once, scared by the possibility of having her as an enemy throughout the entire time she was on screen. And that's because her only wish was to make friends and share happy memories with them. Well, that would be the case if her situation was what we call normal. Chapter 4 centered around Sakurai as a whole, beginning with Monokuma revealing her role as the spy for the mastermind of the killing game, and spiraling into a mutual and unforgiving distrust among the surviving students of Hopespeak Academy. Needless to say, this chapter was incredibly difficult to play for multiple reasons. In fact, I think the main reason she made it to number 7 was all thanks to Chapter 4. Mainly, Chapter 4's ending. In this chapter, after many hardships within the group, Sakura decides that the best course of action is to commit suicide. I know, I felt that too. Serious talk here, I don't think suicide is ever the answer to anything. That being said, I kind of understand what she went for here. It was her way of fighting back against the mastermind. I was remembered of just how much respect I have for the ultimate martial artist upon Monokuma's read of Sakura's suicide note. In it, she reveals that she was indeed the spy for the mastermind, although it was because she was forced to do so, due to her family's dojo being taken from her. As the killing game went on, Sakura realized that most of her classmates considered her a friend, and slowly, she decided that she wouldn't follow her orders anymore. However, as her secret was revealed, the chaos caused within the group made her understand that she only had one course of action to proceed towards. It's beautifully sad. It's an act that most of us wouldn't or couldn't do that easily. But, above all, it's unfair. Unfair for Sakura. Unfair for Aoi. It's just unfair. You know, wherever she is, she's in a better place. Like the big angel she really is. I find it funny how many characters in Trigger Happy Havoc make it into this list for their contributions to the main game, and more importantly, to the story. Ready to break the status quo?
Yeah.
And there's the killer. Many of you would be asking for a refund if this was a paid opinion by now. Is Mukuro above Junko? In all honesty, I couldn't tell you. It's strange. I had so much to say about Junko, but not about her twin sister. Something's awfully fishy here. Eduardo's playing favorites. If that's what you're thinking, you're 100% correct. But to be fair, I like both of them. Don't get into a hissy fit for that, please. Introduced as one of the late plot twists of the game, Mukuro is revealed to be the hidden 16th student of the killing school life. Dubbed the ultimate despair by Kyoko, it puts the player on edge for what Chapter 5 would bring. And throughout that same chapter, the mere mention of the name Mukuro is cause for alarm. But let's leave that for now. It's time to do a little rewind to this moment.
Junko and Ashima. Charmed, I'm sure.
As I said in the number 8 entry, the player only meets Junko and Oshima upon midway through the class trial of Chapter 6. Then, who's this? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mukuro Ikusaba, the ultimate soldier. Alright, it's time I cut the surprised face and sound. Literally everyone here has played the game, and if by some off chance there were some people who ignored the spoiler warning, punishment is waiting for you. Back on track. Mukuro is a unique character because, well, in the grand scheme of things, she wasn't even supposed to be a character. She was just there to take Junko's place, while Junko herself just completely eliminated the memories out of everybody else. You see, the killing school life was orchestrated by the two sisters. In fact, their whole gimmick was, well, despair. They were known as the Despair Sisters and were behind what was later known as the biggest, most awful, most tragic event in human history. Or simply the tragedy. Even knowing this, something about Mukuro just impresses me far beyond what Junko was able to do. When I said I was going to break the status quo, what did you think I meant? Maybe Danganronpa 3, perhaps Danganronpa IF? None of those. Like I said in Junko's entry, I'm focusing purely on Trigger Happy Havoc. And, wouldn't you know, I am lucky enough to possess the Steam version. Everyone, meet School Mode. Being the second student to die in the main game didn't do any favors to Mukuro's character, so I had to find some other way to assess her existence. Now, School Mode might not be considered canon, big air quotes, but it provided just that little extra I was looking for. And my god, it's beautiful. In terms of top 10 material, School Mode has some unique features, mainly the trip tickets. Once you've reached 10 successful trip ticket uses with any one character, you unlock their School Mode ending. We'll go back to that one later on. The other unique feature is called Trigger Happy Heart, where Makoto can magically read people's fucking minds. Yeah, I don't get it either. Point is, Mukuro's thoughts are very, very interesting. While that is true, it's the School Mode ending that gets her this high. Clip that I'm going to play right now.
And... And... Aww. Huh? And... So then... And... yeah.
I mean, I don't really have to say anything else, do I? This ending alone makes Mukuro stand above her sibling in this countdown. I'm not going to lie, I haven't read Danganronpa IF yet. But if this ending made me emotional, and IF seems to focus on the ultimate soldier, I might need a whole box of tissues. Thank you, Mukuro. Search for your dream. Search to your heart's content. And never, ever look back. Alright, top 5. This is where the list becomes a little easier to manage. Up until now, it was the harder part of the countdown to make. Now, who is it that kicks off the lower half of the top? Nobody else but the ultimate prodigal asshole himself.
Naturally.
Here's a little story. There was once a blonde douchebag with glasses wearing some sort of business suit that went around telling people they were all inferior to him. Eduardo, as in me, wanted this douchebag to bite the dust in the game. Guess what? He didn't. Final result? I started liking him as a character? Byakuya, Byakuya. Everybody knows you and your temperament. Cold and calculated to the last argument you might have. Infuriating. And I'm going to be totally honest, after your scummy actions in Chapter 2, I was about to jump inside my monitor and choke the life out of you myself. So how, pray tell, are you in the number 5 spot on my top 10 list? Want an honest answer? I have absolutely no idea. I was minding my own business with Danganronpa when suddenly, one day, Byakuya went all like, "Hey!"
Naturally. Don't make me repeat myself.
What?
It's all clear.
And boom, he made his way into my top 10. Obviously it wasn't as easy as that, but the point lingers. Chapter 4 was a huge turning point for the remaining survivors, especially for Byakuya. While his whole attitude and demeanor of superiority towards others didn't change all that much, I believe he took the fact that he couldn't solve a murder like before very personally, mainly because it had been a suicide that started in somebody else's feelings, something he never had to care for before. I've gotta be absolutely honest here, Byakuya Togami pre-Chapter 4 was absolutely detestable. There were no redeeming qualities in him whatsoever, as evidenced when Aoi just slapped some frustration onto him in said chapter. But as soon as he said those words, I knew the end of the game was going to get a lot more interesting. Aside from the obvious meme of
"Tell them, Makoto,"
we can all agree that he was the one that completed the trifecta of the murder solvers with Makoto and Kyoko, even if he was less than enjoyable. Post-Chapter 4 Byakuya shows us a very different side of the ultimate affluent progeny, with him showing some degree of concern for his classmates and, more importantly, appearing to be dead focused in his mission, ending the mastermind's life. It's almost admirable the dedication that he puts into solving every mystery of Hope's Peak Academy. The way he, big air quotes, commands the remaining survivors in Chapter 5 is proof of that. With Kyoko gone doing her own research, it fell to Byakuya the responsibility of managing the class. Well, sort of anyways. While in this period of time, he and the others dismantled a fucking Monokuma robot. Dismantled! Not to mention that it is thanks to him that Makoto came to know a lot of information on Mukuro Ikusaba as the ultimate soldier. The reveal of the mercenary corps known as Fenrir honestly blew my mind. The only downside to this new and improved Byakuya is, well, the short screen time. Throughout the majority of the game, he's not like this. He views the Killing School game as, well, an actual game, with 1 winner and 14 losers. In his eyes, it was meant to happen. His victory was all but assured, for he was Byakuya Togami, the ultimate affluent progeny, heir to a fortune most can't even imagine. Who else was fit to win this game but him? Combine that with Chapter 2's Byakuya, one of the absolutely worst people both in-game and in real life that I ever had the displeasure of seeing in action, and yeah, number 5. If there's anything I can't tolerate, are lies, and deceit in general. What he did with the victim of Chapter 2 is unforgivable. There you go, asshole. Enjoy being middle of the fucking table. After the event that was number 5, I need a break. Like, a really good break. There's nobody better for this, don't you think, Aoi?
You got it!
Nothing satisfies me more than seeing the Queen of all Donuts in the top 4. She deserves it, and I mean that. You see, the Ultimate Swimming Pro has it rough throughout the entire game. Not rough like 'tis but a scratch. No. I'm talking shit like immense psychological torture. While that stands true for most of the cast of Danganronpa 1, I have to be honest. I felt this with Aoi. It's as if I was there with her, every time she broke down in tears. There are very few characters with the ability to make me imagine myself standing next to them, experiencing the moment. The fact that she can pull this off so easily was enough for her to be in this countdown. The rest were just bonus points. But I gotta say, she has a lot of bonus in her favor. For starters, I think she's easily the most likable character from the start of the game and stays that way until the very end. After the shit she went through, it's not easy maintaining her identity. Hell, the last entry was all about how the Killing School game changed someone else's identity. Can I just say how refreshing it is to have a character like her to be a part of the surviving cast? Because it is! In the midst of all the serious talking, shocking revelations, having someone who just knows how to crack a big smile is A tier, in my opinion. I just love Aoi as a whole. All of her character is extremely compelling. But, just like Byakuya, there is somewhat of a breaking point for her. And once again, it boils down to Chapter 4. Since the whole chapter focused on Sakura, her best friend, it's natural that upon the death of said friend, the attention would turn to Aoi herself. And that's exactly what happened. I believe that Aoi didn't really want to kill anyone. She was just overcome by grief. Grief that, as she read the piece of paper that she assumed to be Sakura's suicide note, transformed into rage. And rage, my friends, is a powerful and unyielding source of fuel. Accounting everyone responsible for the death of Sakura, she tried to mislead the investigation. At one point, I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was unthinkable. Aoi, of all people? I even considered disliking her at some point. It took until the very end of the game to realize why she did what she did. Even with the explanation she gave, it still baffled me. She did it out of love. And no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in a more general sense of the word love. There was a point where her rage blinded her, yes. But that's because her love for Sakura made her seem in her eyes responsible for her dear friend's death. Her and everybody else. After Monokuma read the real suicide note left behind by the ultimate martial artist, Aoi finally realized that her actions were wrong all along. Another web of lies expertly crafted by the mastermind Junko Enoshima. She sort of returned to her usual quirky and adorable self in Chapter 5, although I believe she started making more questions to herself like what would Sakura do here, as evidenced by Chapter 6's awakening from despair. I gotta say that the real world, needs more people like Aoi. She's just so nice. Like probably one of the characters I enjoy hanging out with the most, be it in free time events or school mode. I just adore her. Adore her to bits, and I wish she has a happy life in the future she and the others created. You deserve peace, Aoi Asahina. You've been through so much, and got nothing in return. You ask nothing in return, and that is someone truly worth being close friends with. It's ya boy!
No, that's wrong!
As if I even have to say it. Luck be a lady tonight, people, and only the finest can show us what the beauty's capable of. An average, ordinary, everyday student converted into the ultimate lucky student is a character introduction that far outclasses most of the games I've played. If that wasn't enough, this guy is literally one of the most recognized faces when talking Danganronpa. It's not like he's the protagonist of the first game or anything, right? When talking about Makoto Naegi, one must keep two things in mind. First, luck is absolutely bullshit. Second, hope is the only way forward. Got all that? Good. Let's address both points. I don't know who makes the criteria for the lottery in which he was chosen as the ultimate lucky student, but they should have been fired, because that lottery was absolutely rigged. The poor bastard is honestly extremely unlucky throughout the majority of the game. In fact, his talent only shines through upon his fucking execution. He had to wait for a chance to die for his talent to function properly. Better yet, it wasn't really his talent that saved him, but rather the actions he undertook earlier with Alter Ego. But let's leave technicalities behind and talk about Makoto as a character. He's not a fantastic protagonist, far from it actually. More than half of the game, he seems to always seek to take the metaphorical hand of Kyoko, who basically solves shit for him to tell everyone else. While Makoto eventually develops basic logic functions, it's kind of aggravating that the main character of the game needs so much help to help others. To be fair, I don't know what I was expecting from the character who's told time and time again to tell them. But still, you'd think the protagonist of the story would make some relevant discoveries on his own, not relying on anybody else, right? Well, if you want that, you gotta wait until the end game for it. Other than that though, I find Makoto to be extremely likable. His attitude towards others, the way he wants to get along with everybody else, how he wants to be friends with the rest of the cast, it's also so full of hope. You remember when I told you that Makoto sees hope as the only way forward? While that remains true for the entirety of the game, you don't really understand it until Chapter 5. And by that point, it's pretty clear that something was being set up. It takes until the very end of the game to make the protagonist an actual fucking protagonist. It's weird. The more I say, the more it seems like it doesn't have a reason to be in my top 3. Well, say hello to Chapter 6. I think everyone who's played Danganronpa 1 can say for sure that Makoto is the one who shines brightest here. The investigation is honestly underwhelming, but the class trial is something else entirely. The true battle of the last chapter of the game becomes fairly obvious. Makoto versus Junko, hope versus despair. As Junko herself said, two sides of the same coin, divided by a razor-thin line. Such are hope and despair. This is Makoto Naegi. This is the protagonist that was missing the entire game. This is the ultimate hope. In fact, him standing up to Junko's minimalistic yet haunting speech of how if she died, it meant everyone's death was probably one of the best moments in the entire game. That, combined with the bullet time battle between Makoto and Junko, create two of the most iconic lines in Danganronpa history.
Despair into tomorrow. Despair into your
Hope keeps on going!
I mean, that's really all he needs to be here in all honesty. Makoto Naegi, I truly believe you are the ultimate hope. Three words for this one. Come on everybody, say it with me. New World Order!
That's right.
Who, in their sanest state of mind, would have the guts to dismiss this beauty of a crime solver as one of the best characters not only in the first game, but in the whole series? If you thought that the answer was me, I suggest you go look somewhere else, because praise has been in high demand lately, and largely due to the actions of Kyoko Kirigiri. I don't even know where to begin, and frankly, I'm also terrified to begin because I don't know if I'll ever stop. Okay, how about this for a start? Remember how I said Makoto needed help to figure shit out for most of the game? Meet the person who held his hand through the first half of Danganronpa 1. Like seriously, the number of saves made by the ultimate detective is sort of ridiculous. Take, for instance, Chapter 2. She was able to pinpoint Mondo as the killer simply because he referred to the victim, Chihiro, as dude, when everyone thought that he was a girl. That's insane! A single slip of the tongue that no ordinary person would be even able to see as odd, much less use it to identify a killer. And yet, Kyoko did it like it was nothing. Her cool demeanor, outstanding presence throughout the whole game, and most importantly, her sharp and cunning mind during investigations made her one of my instant favorites. However, I believe that the thing that made her the undisputed number 2 spot was her background. At the beginning, we know nothing from Kyoko. Her face, as described by Makoto himself, was an iron mask. You couldn't read her, and if I'm being honest here, I was fucking terrified of her. I didn't know what to expect. It wasn't until Chapter 1's investigation that I started to truly appreciate Kyoko's character. As one of the few people that didn't suspect Makoto of the murder of Sayaka Maizono, she probably solves the case in an instant, and yet, she doesn't end the class trial in that time. Instead, she decides to let Makoto figure the case out himself, also that he discovers the truth on his own, the betrayal of Sayaka. At the end of the trial, the dialogue between the two made me like Kyoko a lot. From that point forward, I felt like I could trust her somewhat unconditionally. Like I said, after Sayaka's backstab, it was hard finding someone totally trustworthy, but Kyoko was definitely up there. I think it took me until Chapter 3's finale to realize that it was alright to really trust her. Which is why Chapter 4 was so hard for me, since Makoto made the stupid decision to not tell her about Sakurai. It broke me seeing Kyoko avoiding him because I really enjoyed talking with her. However, Chapter 5 is where my admiration for her turned into a sort of an obsession. While she certainly tries to free herself from the accusations of Mukuro's death, she knows this trial is a facade, and yet, she does nothing about it. Not because she didn't care, but because she was the best chance the others had to find out the real mastermind behind the Killing School game. Kyoko even admits that herself.
I don't expect you to forgive me. I know this is all my fault. So... you... Indeed. However...
She wanted to survive, but not at any cost. I think she displays a lot of emotion upon Makoto's execution sequence, and is ultimately relieved upon seeing him survive. Of course, I can't talk about her without mentioning the reveal of Chapter 6. Kyoko is the headmaster's daughter. One of the biggest plot twists of the late game, it worked as a sort of bombshell that connected all the way back to the first scene of the game. The execution scene blast off. We finally know who was killed and why. It was starting to make sense. And of course, it's Kyoko that has the honor of giving the title of Ultimate Hope to Makoto when he stood up to Junko Enoshima. Ladies and gentlemen, when in doubt, Kyoko Kirigiri is your best bet. Come on, let's be real here. There has been an odd absence throughout the entire countdown. A character so monumentally important and charming that I just couldn't put it anywhere else but number 1. I think you all know who I'm talking about. So, fellow fans of Danganronpa, introducing the cinnamon roll of Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Chihiro Fujisaki! Not expecting that one? Don't lie. We all saw this coming. This ain't Persona 5, damn it. What kind of soulless bastard would I need to be to absolutely disregard my affection and sincere love towards my personal favorite of Danganronpa 1? The ultimate programmer, Chihiro Fujisaki, is an A-tier, scratch that, S-tier character that had a criminally underwhelming amount of screen time. So, where should I start with? When Makoto first meets Chihiro, it's fairly obvious that something's wrong. Incredibly insecure, seemingly fragile, and very afraid to talk. It was clear from the beginning that Chihiro had a severe inferiority complex. And being completely honest, the impact this character caused in the earliest moments in the game was tame, at best. Which is a strange thing to say, don't you think? As I said in many of the prior entries, Chihiro was the victim of Chapter 2. So, how do we go about analyzing this character? There are several branches to choose here, so I'll start with Chapter 2 itself. I've already talked about this in previous entries, so I'll keep it short. This chapter's motive revolved around the darkest secrets of each character that survived Chapter 1, i.e. everybody but Sayaka, Leon, and, big air quotes, Junko. Chihiro's secret was the fact that he cross-dressed. Ah, yes, assumptions out of the way, Chihiro's not a girl. He only dressed like a girl for most of his life. Once again, it all connects to that inferiority complex. As a boy, Chihiro was fragile and weak, and he kept hearing that from everyone around him. That's why he decided to start cross-dressing. What started as a way to escape his own weakness spiraled into a self-damaging inferiority complex that haunted Chihiro for the rest of his life. When that secret was about to be revealed, he did what I considered to be a very bold move. Chihiro confronted his fears. His character growth in Chapter 2 is astonishing, always talking about getting stronger both physically and mentally, and that's what ultimately gets him killed. Again, that has previously been explained. I actually cried a lot when I finished recording the end of Chapter 2. Chihiro deserved better. Way better. The second branch was his post-death importance. You thought Sayaka and Sakurai were influential? Son, you haven't seen anything. Chihiro's legacy on the 78th class is astronomical, and I absolutely mean it. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Alter Ego. Somehow, someway, this artificial intelligence program becomes a vital character in this game. The only reason why it isn't on this list is because I consider it to be some sort of extension of Chihiro's own character. Need a reminder of what saved Makoto's ass from his own execution? Or what about the catalyst of Chapter 3? Needless to say, Alter Ego is both a game changer and an eye-opener. It tells the player that despite his issues, despite his own insecurity, Chihiro was trying his best to save everyone, even before Sayaka's murder. Alter Ego's own growth mirrors Chihiro's in Chapter 2, starting off as somewhat insecure of his own capabilities, and then developing into a caring and loving friend to the cast of Danganronpa 1. Which is why it broke my heart to see him get executed. Since Chapter 4 didn't have a blackened, Monokuma, or rather Junko, used this chance to kill off Alter Ego when he entered the network. And yet, like I said, it was him that allowed Makoto a chance to live. By using his last ounce of energy, while planted in the network, Alter Ego stopped the machine that would crush the ultimate lucky student. Ultimately, Chihiro Fujisaki manages to not only be one of the most adorable beings in fictional history, but also becomes one of the most important characters in the game. And that's why I adore him. Sure, he might have cross-dressed, and sure, he might have looked weak, but I believe that he was actually the strongest character in the game. Without him, many of the things wouldn't have happened. Chihiro Fujisaki is, therefore, my favorite character in Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, and a brilliant finale to this countdown. Hello everyone, and thank you all so much for watching my top 10 Danganronpa 1 characters. This list was really hard to make, from editing to choosing the characters to just writing the script all together. It was hard. It was incredibly hard. I actually had an aneurysm. Not really. I don't want you guys to concern for me. I'm not overworking myself. Uni has already started by the time I'm recording this, well, video message to put at the end of the video. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Remember, it's all my opinion, and I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Now, in terms of what's happening in the channel right now, Danganronpa 2 is currently going live. I've already finished recording the entire game. I know, it's kind of ridiculous. So, there were 2 days in which I recorded 5 episodes, and I got tired that weekend. I got tired. I actually already recorded episode 1 of Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, so just so you guys understand that I'm really ahead of my schedule. Today's the 12th. I think Danganronpa V3 will probably be uploaded somewhere around December, early December. And yeah, I basically wanted to make this little video message to thank you guys for watching the premiere. For those of you who watched the premiere and those who haven't and are watching later on, well, thank you for taking your time to watch a shitty video that I made. The hardest part of this video were honestly the number reveals, the transitions that revealed the numbers, because, you know, remaking that HUD, Danganronpa 1's class trial HUD, was not easy, and I suggest you try it because that was all made in Vegas. The only thing I made in After Effects was the number transition from like number 10 to number 9 and so forth. Like that little static image, I could only do that in After Effects, or if I can do it in Vegas, I don't know how to do it because I'm inexperienced AF. But anyways, as I was saying, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing if you are new to the channel. And I'm not going to do my full outro today because this is a special video, but until next time, peace!